guys, it's Dan, Book Nook Noggin, and I wanted to talk about Lady Chatterley's Lover. This is a new film adaptation that's out by Netflix. It's directed by Laure de Clermont-Tonnerre. Never heard of this director. I know that there's somebody who's been in a lot of foreign films. I think they're an actress, I do believe. I'm sorry, I'm not overly familiar with this person, but the reason why I wanted to mention this latest adaptation that's on Netflix is that I was super impressed with it. I don't typically do film reviews just because, like, I'm mainly a book channel, and I feel like I'm not adequate enough to discuss and talk about films. I don't want to be known as a film review channel. Now, I'm going to go back, because this is a new 2022 release. It was released on November 23rd of 2022. It's a relatively new film, so maybe you have never heard of it, but I'm hoping that possibly you have heard of the classic novel by D.H. Lawrence, Lady Chatterley's Lover. Now, I'm going to throw out there, disclaimer, it's been many years since I've read this book. My experience with the past films, when I was a teenager, I remember seeing on Skinamax, Cinemax, we call it Skinamax because I swear to God, Cinemax, back in the 80s, all they showed were like kind of softcore porn. And Lady Chatterley's Lover was one that I happened to see late night on Cinemax. And it stuck with me, and it made me want to read the book. So I decided to read the book when I was older. I don't remember exactly when I read it, but I read it like probably when I was in my mid-20s or early 30s, somewhere around there. I remember reading this book. It is a classic. It is erotica. It does have strong language. I think the author, D.H. Lawrence, might be British. I know that the film takes place in Britain. But I do have to say that this film adaptation was the best film adaptation based on the book that I've ever seen. Like I said, I'm only comparing this to a Skinamax version, which was straight up just porn. It didn't really have, it was very loosely based on the book, but this one was very well done. It was, I'm going to say this one was like based on the book. Like, from what I recall from reading this book, now this book takes it was written in 1928 by D.H. Lawrence. It does take place shortly after the events of World War One. We have Lord and Lady Chatterley, and Lord Chatterley has come back from the Great War. He was wounded, he's paralyzed, he's in a wheelchair. He's not capable of producing an heir to his, his lordship or whatever you call that. And he kind of suggests to his newlywed wife that, hey, maybe you can, find somebody to get you pregnant. This is kind of sitting in the back of her mind, and she's just, she's hanging out in this huge estate. She's kind of bored. She's wandering around, and she happens to come across the gamekeeper. So, like, there's so much more to this story than just erotica. I mean, yes, there is a portion of this book and this movie where there's a lot of sex going on. Hot and heavy sex. But at the same time, it's not like one of those slow burn books. It wasn't really a slow burn movie either. I found it to be interesting enough. They kind of dealt with the issues of someone who was traumatized from a war experience. And this guy's got PTSD. And it's this relationship where the wife's trying to support her husband and trying to maintain her own happiness and all that at the same time. I found this to be a great kind of romance kind of movie and book. Like I said, it's been a while since I've read the book, so I'm kind of doing kind of a half-assed book to movie comparison. But, hands down, I thought that this latest film adaptation was probably the better one that I've ever seen. I gave it a 5 out of 5 star rating on Letterboxd, and I'm going to throw down my Letterboxd, my link to Letterboxd, so that way if you have not heard of Letterboxd is kind of like a Goodreads for movies. You can rate and review like films you've seen, and you can even like, you know, create watch lists of stuff you want to see in the future. I find it to be a very useful tool because I've seen a lot of films in my lifetime, and you know, I'm trying to catch up and add them to Letterboxd. But yeah, I gave this film a 5 out of 5 star rating. I really, really loved it. I just watched it last night. I don't typically do film reviews. I'm not familiar with any of the actors and actresses that were in this film. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with the director either. But everybody was just brilliant. I felt like this was really done really tastefully and really done really well. The sex scenes were hot, but the film didn't focus on that. Like there were some brief like glimpses of the fact that, you know, these people were having a passionate affair. Everybody who doesn't want to be desired and to desire somebody in that way. It was really, really done well. There's not too much more I can say about it. Oh yeah, there was the one lady that I recognized, and I think she was an actress from Nip Tuck. I just can't remember what the actress's name, but she was the only actress that I really recognized from this film. She played one of the doctor's wives from Nip Tuck, if I remember right. Great film, guys. I cannot gush about this film anymore, and it's making me want to go back and reread Lady Chatterley's Lover. I should probably reread that at some point, because it's been quite a long time since I've read that one. It was a short, quick read, if I remember right. But, you know, it is, if you are someone who is a fan of classic literature or doesn't mind reading romance, erotica, I don't really read a lot of romances. I prefer to read erotica because, you know, that's easier to digest for me. But like I said, I thought that this was a great adaptation of the book. I recommend you going and checking it out, even if you have not read the book. If you're someone who thinks you might enjoy it, because it is kind of a period piece too. It takes place in the early 1900s, and it's very interesting. I think they did a really good job of representing that time period and the events and the way things are going on in this little town in England in the Midlands. It was interesting for sure. It was definitely a great film. I cannot say that enough. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. I don't want to spoil it too much for those of you who have not seen it or read the book. Yeah, go check those out. Of course, as always, I will try to have a link down below for the Amazon for the book. At least I will throw down my coffee link, and I'm going to throw down something new. I'm going to throw down my Letterboxd link if you guys want to, you know, friend me on Letterboxd and maybe see what other interesting films are out there. Till next time, later.